Hello everyone, my name is Susanna Zuzel. I work as a policy officer at REVOLVE. Today we're at the European Parliament with MEP Cristina Guarda, representative of the Greens EFA Group. In this conversation, we'll explore the vital role of rural areas in the European Union, the growing importance of agroecology, the evolving common agricultural policy, and the expectations surrounding the Multiannual Financial Framework. Ms. Guarda, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. It's a very big pleasure.
So the rural areas make up 83% of EU territory and are often seen through the lens of growth and competitiveness. Do you believe this framing fully captures their value, or should we place greater emphasis on their role in sustaining biodiversity, supporting resilient communities, and preserving ways of life?
Rural areas makes up over 80% of Europe's territory, but their value is still too often underestimated, and we tend to judge them only by their contribution to growth and competitiveness, as you said, ignoring everything that actually is sustainable: our food, water management, biodiversity, natural resources, carbon sinks, renewable energy, landscapes, and community life connected also with tourism. Now with the new budget proposal, we are hearing that rural areas could benefit from new priorities like defense investments. But to me, the very big question is this real about rural needs, or just about using these regions to absorb projects that wouldn't be accepted elsewhere? And I have seen this logic in Italy too. The government recently cut funding for the Strategia Nazionale per le Aree Interne, the rural areas, which was designated and was designed also to support remote and fragile communities. The message is clear, and they wrote it down. If you are not economically performing, you are no longer a political priority. The same pattern shows up in the energy transition. Rural areas are where most of our renewable energy is being developed, but projects are often imposed from above with no participation, with a little say from local communities and very few local benefits. And this is an extractive logic. And this is just an extractive logic painted like a green strategy. We also need to move past the idea that bigger is always better. So a small farm, like mine also, that feeds a community and creates social connection may do more for our future than a large one that is not so efficient in this type of relationship with a rural community, where it is efficient operation disconnected from its territory. And yet too often our policies reward scale, not impact. And this is what we as Green are really focused on, and we are working a lot in creating a strategy that is versus this one. It's a big because we want to recognize the value where it exists, like in rural areas.
And you advocate for rural and mountain communities to ensure they have an agency over their future. What does that empowerment look like in practice, and what are the key steps you're taking to make it a reality?
So empowerment means giving rural and mountain communities the real chance to shape their future by themselves, and not just implement decisions made somewhere else. And it starts from recognition. These aren't problems to fix. They are territories full of potential with their own solution and their own strategies. That means access to basic services like mobility, education, healthcare, broadband, but also giving local government, especially the small municipalities, the tools to act. What they don't want and they don't need are big extractive tourism projects imposed from above. And one great example is BioDistrict. It's a tool that I worked on in the last few months, and also when I was a regional councillor in Italy. There are initiatives where farmers, local businesses, citizens and authorities work together to manage resources, local resources, and to manage sustainability with organic farming at the center. They are real engines of local innovation, and it's very interesting this type of project. We also need to scale up CLLD, community-led local development, which gives people the power to set their own priorities. And this is why I've been pushing for minimum earmarked funding for CLLD and in both the CAP and also in the cohesion policy. It can't be just a nice option extra. It means that it needs to be for the center of the strategy. But the new proposal about either the CAP and the cohesion to create a single national fund goes in the wrong direction. So the Commission is trying to create this new framework for the budget and putting the rural development and the cohesion in competition between one another. And rural areas are in more developed regions against those in the less developed regions. And this is very meaningful, this type of strategy, because it's dangerous to create a framework that can fit in both the two areas. We are going maybe to fight for the same shrinking pot of money, but we are putting region one against another. This approach tends to benefit big urban projects and not so the rural ones. And when it happens, agency disappears. And without agency, there is no ownership. And this is why, yes, this moment of the EU Parliament is very, very meaningful and important. If we want to respond to the far-right vote in rural areas, we, as European also, and we want to boost the European value, we need to tackle that feeling of exclusion. And that means making policies that are truly inclusive. And I think of maybe women and young people in rural areas who often face barriers, starting with the land access or decision making, but who are also the ones that are driving the local innovation and the social cohesion. So why we aren't using, for example, real gender indicators in the CAP, in the future of a common political of agriculture? This is the main question that I'm putting on the table in the committee, in my agri committee. And unfortunately, I have to admit, the proposal on the table today doesn't move in that direction. This is very unfair, and this is a very big pity. And honestly, I'm deeply worried about the future of EU institutions and policies of rural areas, in particular, because we are going to transform the EU institution in a sort of bancomat for national governments, and this is not a European strategy.
I was actually going to ask about the common agriculture policy, that it's going undergoing significant changes, and so would you say small-scale farming and sustainable livestock practices are going in a bad direction?
We are entering in a crucial moment for the future of the CAP, yes, and we should do all what we can to address as the unequal distribution of support and the failure to align funding with environmental and social objectives. So this is a very tough moment. We need a CAP that truly supports small and mixed farmers, and that means better targeting of payments, stronger social conditionality, and the shift towards rewarding public goods like biodiversity, animal welfare, but a true one, not only based on scale, a healthy soil rather than just hectares in general. We have to go beyond the compensatory approach. That means making sustainable choices economically available and ensuring they have a real margins. The farmers can have a real margin in their income. There is a whole debate about on incentives, and as Greens, I have to admit, we have to get this right on how to design schemes that reward ecosystem services, creating the possibility to receive a real income that can make farmers resist to the markets difficulties that they have, and also to climate crisis. And that we are doing in the new CAP, what we are doing in the new CAP with our proposal. There is no obligation to dedicate a certain amount or percentage to agri-environment payments, and they are only ring-fencing income support measure that is co-financed by the member states. So this gives less power to the farmers that are going to do that are doing good type of farming like agroecological one, and then. Only if there is money left and if the member states decide to co-finance agro-environmental measures, payment follow. If there is no co-finance and no left money from the pro-hectare support, there will no space and no more money for environmental strategy. On top of that, member states have a wide margin to define these payments and their level of ambition. And the risk is clear at the moment. A race to the bottom and yet another missed opportunity. When it comes to livestock farming, the focus of your question, the discussion is often politically and emotionally very difficult. As someone who is vegetarian and close to the animal sanctuary movement, like me, I feel this tension deeply. But I also believe that abolishing all forms of animal farming is not a social strategy, especially in many rural territories where livestock plays a crucial role in maintaining landscape and in creating opportunities. So I completely understand the difficulty to approach this type of theme and to create a strategy and an alternative for these farmers in particular. That is why I support a serious debate on de-intensification, and I welcome the proposal of the Commission to support extensification and diversification in a threat vulnerable zone like mine. So we can no longer ignore, the point is that we can no longer ignore the environmental and ethical cost of industrial farming, but we must also respect those farmers who care for their animals, their land and their communities. And this is why we need to work probably finding a compromise between these two views in order to strengthen a strategy that can answer to the real issues of today for the sector in particular.
You mentioned agroecology as well, and you often advocate for it as well as for the cohesion reform to build a model that connects food, land, and people. In your view, is agroecology one of the most effective ways to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I feel that agroecology is one of the most effective ways to reconnect food, land, and people, not only in terms of farming practices, but as a broader framework for social and ecological transformation. It's about building food system that works with nature, that knows nature, and supports local communities and protect our ecosystem. But we also need to challenge a widespread misconception that agroecology is something for marginal or constrained area like the hills, the mountains, the places where real productivity isn't available. As if we are saying, let's keep the nice agroecological farmers in a picturesque landscape and leave the intensive production to the grown-ups in the plains. This divide is only a false. It's dangerous also. Agroecology is not a nice model or a naive model. It's a viable and scalable approach that can and should be implemented across all type of farming and all type of territories. We need to stop thinking in terms of two speed, the green fringe and the productive core, and start investing in an agricultural system that are sustainable everywhere, not just where it's convenient to showcase them, because maybe it's useful also for tourism and so on. But also where regional development policy come in. If we want agroecology to thrive, we need to back it with technological and technical investment, with infrastructure, with trainings, with developing value chains and market access, especially in that areas where industrial farming has become the default. So yes, agroecology for me is an effective model, but also for science. Only if we recognize the value, also and the political choice for the future, not a side project for remote areas.
And at REVOLVE, we're actually working with the Sirawa project to promote agroecological practices among smallholder farmers.
Yes.
Do you see a need for more coordinated agroecology-based EU-wide practices like this one?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. Projects like Chirawa are essential, and we need more coordinated efforts across the EU to support agroecological practices. And so thank you for doing this. But for this work, we need to strengthen the agricultural knowledge and innovation system that is a part of the budget, but so that farmers have access to independent advice, peer learning, and adapted solution. This is very important. Unfortunately, once again, I have a bad news. The Commission is undermining these AKIs. In the current CAP reform, they are putting it outside the scope of ring-fenced CAP funds. So we don't know if there will be an investment from the member state in this type of tool, and that's a bad and short-sighted choice. It sends the message that knowledge systems are somehow secondary, when in reality they are the backbone of any serious transition. Too often farmers interested in transitioning to agroecology are left without any type of support, or they are dependent on advice driven by input suppliers. That has to change. Because if we want to be serious about agroecology, we should invest in independent, farm-led innovation and ensure that training and research are aligned with real needs on the ground, not with business as usual. And speaking about research, I'm really connected with this word because I experienced how truly I needed in my farm this type of relationship with the university, with independent researchers. Too often, the farmers driven by this innovation are excluded from EU research programs like Horizon, which are still left only toward large institutions or high-tech solutions. We should also think of opening up EU innovation funding, make it more accessible and more inclusive.
And finally, looking at the bigger budgetary framework, what are the Greens' expectations for the negotiations for the next Multiannual Financial Framework?
So we have serious concerns because we have to on the table a proposal that is very bad, and it's about renationalizing European policies, merging funds and cutting funds. One of the most problematic proposals is the idea of merging rural development funding from the CAP with the cohesion policy into a single national envelope. While this may sound efficient, theoretically, it risks to reduce the quality of policy missions. We could end up with neither effective rural development nor meaningful territorial cohesion. So we strongly believe that rural development must remain part of the CAP, and cohesion needs to be connected with it, but not merged. It's what connects, because the rural development strategy, it's what connects agriculture to broader goals like biodiversity, like generational renewal, like public services and territorial resilience. At the same time, cohesion policy should better support rural territories in other ways. And I have advocated for dedicated envelopes with cohesion for rural investments, in particular for services, mobility, digital infrastructure. But today we don't even know how much cohesion funding reaches rural areas, and we are not able to define it because it will be all about national strategy. At the same time, the proposed national regional partnership model and the single national fund risks to create false choices. we are pitching rural development against cohesion policy and less developed region against more developed regions ones, and all competing for the same shrinking pot of money. These are not technical decisions. These are deeply political decisions. And placing them entirely in the hands of national governments opens the door to arbitrary allocation, short-term priorities connected with election terms, and political favoritism. Because we don't know if the different regions are going to be treated by governments in the same way, although they are not maybe part of the same party. So the answer is to every problem cannot be simply delegate everything to the member state. This is not solidarity, it's abdication. And the Commission cannot act like Ponzio Pilato and wash its hands of responsibility.
Thanks a lot.
You too.
Today we talked about the importance of rural areas in the EU, how agroecology can connect food, land and people, the changes to common agricultural policy is underway, and the expectations on the Multiannual Financial Framework. Thank you so much for your time, for joining us.
Thank you very much for your patience and your interesting question.
Thank you.